the pioneers of Montessori training in Nigeria, accredited by MACTE in the US. We've trained for over 20 years now. We've trained over 500 teachers in Nigeria. We're proud to say that, both men and women. On our panelists, we have an alumni with us, Eniola Hastrup. She trained at the 3 to 6 level. She's on our panelist as well. Our purpose for our gathering today, it's in celebration of women. We all know that Monday the 8th was the International Women's Day. It's a day set aside to celebrate women, to celebrate achievements of women across all levels, economic level, cultural level. And so we thought that it would be an interesting one to have everyone gather to talk specifically about women in Montessori and how we have managed in the course of the year during the COVID-19 pandemic. We know it was a challenging time. We were all thrown into the dark, unawares, not prepared, unprecedented times, but somehow we've been able to go through each day. We've accomplished a lot. We've learned a lot, and we will talk more about that as we go along. Let's begin by I'll introduce myself. I'm Tumini Boham, Project Coordinator at Heritage House Montessori Center for Academic Work. Our host for this event is Mrs. Adebola Atoyebi. She's the Director of Studies at Heritage House Montessori Center. On our panelists, we have Sherita, we have Eniola, and we have Meme Boham. We're so honored to have you. We know you're so vast, very much vast in Montessori, passionate about Montessori education. I'll give you the floor to introduce yourselves. Let me not do that for you. So let's begin with Mrs. Atoyebi, and then we go to our panelists. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I hope you can all hear me. My name is Adebola Atoyebi. I'm so delighted to be hosting this event. This free webinar, it is something we've wanted to do for a long time. And I think the International Women's Day celebration has given us that opportunity to host this event this evening. I am the Director of Studies of Heritage House Montessori Center. Like Tumini has said, accredited by MACTE, a vision and a passion that was birthed over 20 years ago. I am a mother. I have 3 children. I am an educator through and through. And it's such an honor to be here with lovely women and people of like minds, Montessorians from all over the world. At least we have people from 3 continents here. And so it's such a pleasure to be here this evening, and I welcome everybody.
Thank you, Mrs. Atoyebi. Just before I go on, I know there's so many people who are with us this evening from across Nigeria, from across the world. So if in the chat box, you could just say hello to us and let us know where you are joining us from, it would be a pleasure to know. Also, in the course of this session, if you have any questions, please put them down in the chat box. We will take them as we go along. Just say hello and where you are logging in from. It would be interesting to know how far we have gone and who we have with us. So Sherita, please can you tell us about yourself? Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Sherita Sarju Singh. I have been an infant toddler educator for about 11 years now. I received my training at a Montessori Institute located in Silver Spring, Maryland. I was also an art educator for 10 years before that. So I have a very long history of early childhood education, as well as in-class work. And now recently, I have learned how to transfer all that I've learned. into
No,
technology.
they didn't.
So I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Ms. Adebola, for inviting me, and I look forward to participating in the panel.
Thank you so much, Charita. I'm sure we would gain so much from your insight and your knowledge. We have Eniola Hastrup. Can you please introduce yourself? Tell us what you do and where you are at the moment.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eniola Hastrup, and I'm an alumni of Heritage House Montessori Center. I started my Montessori journey there in 2005. I'm Montessori trained educator. From my qualification, I'm trained to work with children from 2.5 all the way to 12 years. I've been working as a Montessori educator since 2007. I am passionate about education, especially for the underserved, focusing especially on the children who have additional needs. So I have a few qualifications from in teaching additional needs, and I'm currently completing my master's in the University of Birmingham online in inclusion and special educational needs. I work with Planet Montessori School. It's in Marrakesh in Morocco. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Eniola Hastrup. Next, our panelist, last but not the least, is Meme Boham. I know you're dialing in from the UK. Please tell us about yourself and what you do.
Hello, everybody. My name is Meme Boham, as Timini said, and I am a Montessori guide. I trained in London in 2008, and I've been doing that in London, in Nigeria, Scotland, and now I'm in Oxford. So yes, and I'm so happy to be here. I love this initiative. I think it's an amazing one, and we'll talk more about that later. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Meme. So let's jump right in. We have friends. Before we continue, please stay muted throughout the course of the session so that we do not interfere with others while others are talking. We'll jump right in. Thank you for our friends who are letting us know where they're logging in from at this time. So like I said earlier on, we are here to commemorate the Women's Celebration each day. March 8th is a day we celebrate, but we want to celebrate ourselves, our achievements, even our challenges every day. It's not easy being a woman. By the time we talk about our responsibilities at home, we talk about our responsibilities at our work, it's a whole lot. So yes, we give ourselves a pat on the back and we say congratulations to all of our achievements. And even when we have challenges, we remain positive that we can go through them. The theme for the year, for the International Women's Day this year, is Choose to Challenge. I think it's a brilliant theme. It helps us think about to challenge the stereotypes in the system. Women cannot do this, women shouldn't be here, we do not have the emotional, enough emotions to tackle, some aspects of the roles some men say they have in their organizations, but we know we're built much more than that. We have recently the vice president in the United States. No, she's the first woman. That's an accomplishment on its own. We understand and we know that she's paved the way for young girls, to walk in her shoes and even to do more. We're aware of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. She's the first woman right now, I've lost my train of thought there, but we have women who are accomplishing a whole lot in different aspects of life. So we will go right into questions. If you have any questions, like I mentioned, please place them in the box, and then we would take them as we go along. So the past year, we were thrown into the dark. We had no clue, very specifically Montessori, the Montessori environment. We are a system of education that deal with a lot of hands-on learning. We're not the traditional system that we write a lot. We first move from concrete to abstract. And then imagine having our children go straight to paper during the last year. Last year was, for short of words to say, a terrible one for our children, even for the teachers. You know, how did we manage? We have the pink tar. How do we introduce the pink tar to a 2.5-year-old? You know, who is at home? These are concrete materials. How can we translate? How can we move that concept into the home to help these children gain these skills in differentiating, for instance, with the pink tar sizes, discriminating sizes? We were all thrown into the dark. How did we manage last year? What were your strategies at your school? We want to know what your strategies, how did you cope? What were your challenges? What are your challenges even now? Because I know there's some children who still opt to be taught online. How have we gone about this situation in the last year? Sherita, I begin with you, please.
Thank you so much. I've had the fortunate opportunity to be able to work with young students in person and in person for a very long time. Being able to transfer that into an online format was a little bit more interesting to me than it may have been for some of my colleagues. I am currently pursuing a graduate degree in instructional technology, and I took everything that I learned over the course of that program and pretty much applied it to the infant toddler Montessori environment. And I was fortunate at a school institution where they allowed toddlers all the way up to high schoolers to have a distance learning program. So I kind of took the lead on that. I developed presentations, I developed parent education formats, I developed different articles and activities that the children could do at home. And as a team, we all compiled a huge amount of information as a resource that we would then send out to parents every day. We would also do live circle times. We would have interactive circle times with the students, singing songs, reading books, speaking to the children. We would also have the children bring items to circle time. So I found so many different ways to be able to incorporate Montessori education online, even for the very youngest students. When COVID-19 hit, the entire school just went into like emergency work mode where we all had to come up with a program very, very fast in order to transfer into a digital system. We were able to do that in 1 week, and we kind of had trial and error as we went along. But overall, with some surveys that we conducted at the school as things were going on, which they asked me to design, it was just overwhelming positive feedback. And so what we learned is that for the older students specifically, primary and up, you have to send concrete hands-on materials home for the children to be able to do with the teachers online. Now, for the youngest students, because they are all developing oral literacy, because they're developing language, because they're still in a very sensitive period for developing relationships, a lot of that was really just being who we were as educators in person, online, communicating with our students, building that relationship, helping them to feel a part of the program, even if it was in an unusual way. So it was novel for the students to just see their teachers online. It was novel for them to see them on the computer. And in that way, we were able to capture the attention of the students and implement Montessori structure in the process on a very light level in the beginning. But as the year went on and we were required to do that through over time, we would actually implement hands-on materials in the home with guided online guidance for our youngest students.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask you a follow-up question to what you just said. So the Montessori environment I have in the classroom, of course, they're all concrete materials. And I know that you work with the toddlers specifically. So how did you have resources with parents, and how did you coach these children online? Did the parents print out these resources? Would you have to show a picture and then the parent will show that picture back to you? What was the mode of learning?
Sure, absolutely. So we actually did develop some resources for toddlers. For the toddlers, we focus specifically on language. So object to object matching, object to picture matching, picture to picture matching are very accessible for teachers to make and create. They can do that in a short period of time. They can send those materials home. You can also purchase specific systems online that have access to flashcards and language cards that we can give links to our parents. They can purchase those materials, and then the teacher has those same materials, and you can do a back and forth learning material on the computer as a lesson. In terms of using Montessori materials that we use in the classroom and transferring that to the home, what you're going to have to do is promote the ability for the parents to create a Montessori environment in their home. So you're going to have them give them links and resources to different materials that can mimic the real materials that we use in the classroom. For instance, if you're using the pink tower in your classroom, there is a parent could buy the pink tower if they wanted to, but they would really have to be taught how to use that properly. What you want to do as a proper substitute is find a nesting and stacking box system. They are sold everywhere. They're on every major education site. You can get them in different shapes, textures, colors, sizes. And what they do is they layer into each other in a nesting fashion, and they stack on top of each other in a vertical fashion. You can also lay them down horizontally to understand size differentiation and how those fit together. That is a great practicing activity that a child can have at home. It is a material that can be used at home at their leisure. The teacher can use the real life educational material in the computer if they are allowed to bring that home, or if they are teaching from their actual classroom environment. Then that particular material will be a clear connection and mimic to the material that is being used in the classroom. In that way, the child still gains very similar skills. They get very similar lessons, but they're using a material that is specifically designed to be in their home, that can be used safely in their home, and that can be transferred knowledgeably back into the classroom environment when things become safe and the children do return in person.
Thank you, Sharita. The interesting thing about our panelists is that we have three panelists who work with children in the first plane of development and in the second plane of development. We understand that these different ages have unique characteristics. And then the way we would work with a toddler, of course, online is not the same way we would work with a child in the children's house or an elementary child who 6 to 12 years old. So let me go in that progression. Thank you very much, Sharita. I'll go next to Meme because I know she works with children 3 to 6. What was your experience like in the UK? Given, I want to think that, of course, the pandemic was unique. It's the same virus for everyone. But what was unique in your classroom and where you are now? How did you manage?
Okay, so for us, it was, so I was in the classroom all through. In fact, it's so funny because it feels like a full year for me, because I remember this time, last year, I was making Mother's Day activities with the children, and I was planning on sending them home on a Friday, and before you know it, we got the announcement that we weren't coming back, so our classroom was empty the following week, so I couldn't give away the Mother's Day activity. But really, I think for us, not much changed. It just the number of children changed. So there was natural social distancing because only the key worker children could come into school, but we had a reasonable number of children, key worker children that were coming in. So we were still doing the same thing. However, the children at home needed stuff to do. And obviously we had to think quickly, think fast. What can we do to support those families at home? And for us, we really wanted to focus on build bonding between the parent and the child. So we focused on the parents doing a lot with the children, cooking, tidying the room, making the bed, just building that relationship. And, like Sharita said, lots of language games, lots of language cards, we try to have a theme for the month. So one month we could talk about animals, and then we would explore animals that lay eggs and animals that give birth to their babies. And then we would tell the parents, this is the theme for the month. So they would go out and explore, they would go and look for eggs. So we had duck eggs, quail eggs, chicken eggs. So parents can go out and look for that as well. The next following month, we would have a theme of spring, and we would talk about like the flowers in spring. So parents go to the woods and explore and look for the flowers that, we could see, and they would send us pictures and we would send them pictures as well. So those were the kind of things that we were trying to do, with the parents at home. We didn't do that much with the materials. We would give them a few games to play with, like numbers and all the extensions, but we weren't really doing much with materials with the children in the children's house.
Okay, so were your parents comfortable with it? Because it's interesting that we're all dialing in from different countries, different continents of the world. For us here, the reality is our parents wanted to know what our children were doing in math, in language. So when you say we're going into the woods, that's not our concern. They don't want to know that I have paid full school fees. I need to, it was such a unique situation. We were all, everybody was hampering, it was a new situation for the school, for the home. And then, even having the parents, like you mentioned, Meme, you said you had the parent, it was an opportunity to bond with the children. I don't know what it's like, at the moment in the UK, but for us here, our parents still had to go to work, so who worked with the children? What were your challenges in that regard? Given the fact that your children are still very young, under 6, and they need to be supervised, they needed an adult to be with them, to work with them. And what was the situation like for you? What were the complaints from parents? Was it, were they completely satisfied that it was fine, to build our language, to develop our language, to increase our vocabulary? Was it good was it enough for them? What was the concern about proper academic work?
To be fair, here in the UK, it wasn't really too much of an issue, because, for us, our Montessori setting is kind of like nursery, preschool. So when they go into reception, that's when they go to proper school. So really, the learning that we do is kind of like preparation for when they go into school. So our parents don't really stress us too much on the math and language. Their main concern is, is my child communicating? Are they happy? Are they healthy? Are they eating? They're not too worried about the learning over here, at my setting. However, what was the question you asked? You said, however, we did, you said, were they satisfied? There were a few parents who wanted to do more. There were a few parents that wanted to do more. What more can we do? Tell us what we need to do. Yes, your themes are nice and everything, but they wanted more. And so with everyone, if a parent comes and there's like, they want more, we think as a team, okay, what can we do? What extra can we give to them? And so we started having like Zoom sessions. So we would have like circle time with the children. So the parents log in and, we have the circle time. We do more of the language games. We show all the colors and the shapes and all those things, mostly just language, sensorial, by showing them through the Zoom call. So when the parents started to kind of complain, then we started doing those kind of things, having Zoom sessions and inviting the whole class to join in. Also, there was something else. It's gone now. What was it? Wait, just give me 2 seconds. Let me think. So yes, some parents were okay with it. Some parents complained. We helped out. It's not there yet. When it comes back, I will say something.
Thank you. Okay, so we go to Eniola Hastrop. Your plane of children, you have children on the second plane of development, that is the 6 to 12-year-old. I know one characteristics of the 6 to 12-year-old, they're very social children. At the time in their life when they want to be with friends, they want to know what's going on with their friends. And then you're saying, stay home. You know, you can't go out, you can't visit anybody. On top of that, you're learning. How did you go through that phase?
I started this my current job in September, and I started it online. So we took a group at a time instead of multi-age group of children at the same time. It was a single age group at a time, and we had a fixed period for them. So it could be between 1 to about 2:30, 1.5 hours. So the first few minutes of class were spent interacting. The children just, would say, hello, how are you? And the children were all over the place. I was in Nigeria. I had students in France, students in Morocco, and I'm not sure if one was in England, but yeah, they were all over the place. So it was letting them socialize at first before now jumping into the topic. Our school is an IB, a PYP IB school, which is a Montessori school, which runs an IB program, the PYP program. So we run off of units of inquiry. And so we had to try to tie everything they were learning to the particular unit of inquiry, the children that was for that time. And in order to make it realistic, because we had to do math and language, as much as possible, we tried to, I tried to connect whatever they were learning with what was in the house. Also, the virtual Montessori tools were very, very useful. They helped a lot in making the math concepts a bit concrete. And so if we were learning shapes, for instance, if we were doing geometry and we were doing the geometric solids, I would show a picture and then ask the child to go around the house to get something that they could connect with it, just to make it a bit concrete. Because the core thing was to follow Dr. Montessori's principles. We were doing measurements, and they had to go, of course, finding a measuring jar and all of that in the house was a bit difficult. So what could we find? If you had one big cup and a small cup, could you use it, to measure? Language was really easy because apart from grammar, where we had to use the grammar symbols, we just gave, I'll put a worksheet on and then send copies to the families and have them do it. Cultural was, we started with the theme of who are we? Right now, most of the students are back in the classroom. Encouraging social distancing is a big challenge. So what we do is to keep the pods. Each class is a pod by itself. So each class stays by itself. We do not mix. We have different times to go for recess. So the children only see themselves and wave. I think for a few children, it was a bit traumatic because they couldn't play with their friends in the other classroom, which was what they had been doing before. But explaining COVID protocols where you have to wash your hands frequently or sanitize your hands frequently, teaching grace and courtesy where you have to learn to cut into your elbow, were some of the things we've been practicing. So.
Thank you. Very interesting. We would not lose sight for the purpose of this gathering. We will continue to talk about our challenges and our successes in the classroom, Montessori classroom specifically. Let's talk about Maria Montessori as a model. She was a woman who challenged status quo. We know her history. For those of us who are not Montessori teachers, Montessori was a woman, Maria Montessori, that is, was a woman who defied all odds. In her time, women were recognized to be teachers, homemakers, seamstresses, it was stereotyped. And I think it still happens today, even though we're trying to break boundaries now. The expectation for Maria Montessori was go to school, be a teacher. She wasn't satisfied with that. She wanted to be a mathematician. She jettisoned that at some point, decided to be an engineer. And she was going for roles that were all male dominated. She was criticized even by her dad. We understand that even when she decided to be a medical doctor, she sat at the back of the class. At the times when it was time for practical sessions where she would have to, dissect the cadavers and all of that, she had to work at night, so she had to go through so much just to be what she wanted to be. It was quite challenging for her. But she set the way, and we're here today as Montessorians. We're so happy, we're so passionate about what we do. Maria Montessori, along the line, by the time she was being recognized, she was at the Berlin conference. She gave a talk. She championed women movement, women rights. She was always in the forefront. What is it for us now as women? Let's deviate a bit. Should I say, can we deviate from Montessori? We're Montessorians. I don't know what our audience, the professions of our audience, but what is it for women? What are the challenges we face? Let me bring it back home. Do we have any such challenges as teachers? As Montessori teachers, we all assume that we're all women. I know I've seen one man in a classroom, but we're mostly women. Do we have challenges in that regard? How do you think we can go past it? Now let's take it out of the Montessori environment. How do we encourage younger girls, today to say, look, you can be anything you want to be. You can go anywhere you want to go, guided by our principles. Sherita.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Maria Montessori is definitely an inspiration across the board. Every educator that I speak to that is involved in this form of education definitely can identify with her determination and her personal power that she exhibited from a very early age. And I directly connect that to the young children that I work with each day. I see this personal power that they all hold within themselves. And that is something to be encouraged, something to be nurtured, and something to be guided into personal growth. So where these children can find a sense of personal independence, where their personality, their character, and their temperament can all become one. And they actually start to really enjoy the learning process very early on. So I appreciate Maria Montessori for pioneering the way for women educators, as well as for women in the field of psychology, as well as for helping children who live in poverty and who were outcast and downtrodden by society. She took them in as a priority and gave them the scientific understanding that she had developed in her own mind and put it to good use through the hands of the future. And I believe as an educator today, when I walk into my classroom, and I see my young children who started with me between 12 months and 18 months and are now up to between 2.5 and 3, because we have a 2-year cycle in our toddler program, the amount of growth that happens from that unconscious period to that conscious period is tremendous. And to just see the power of human nature at such an early age, the determination that young children have to really create their own path, and how important it is to have a guide present to understand who they are, appreciate who they are, accept what they bring to the classroom, and really try to help them to hone that into something really satisfying is a great level of work that we do every day. The challenges that Maria Montessori faced as a woman in her particular field in a male-dominated society are definitely challenges that women continue to face today all over the world. There is no shortage of women being underpaid. There's no shortage of women being grouped into a stereotypical profession. It's interesting because when I tell people that I'm a teacher or an educator, they just kind of nod like, oh yeah, like they would expect that from me. But I could have been something else. I could have been anything else. And me moving into the field of technology means that there's a very great possibility that I will be something else. And so we can never put limitations on ourselves as humans because we are constantly growing every day. We're all learning from ourselves, from each other, from our society, and so are our young students and children. And so that development and that growth over a long period of time, it changes and it shifts and it becomes something different. And we have to appreciate that the entire way, because that is how we build the leaders of tomorrow. That is how we build a peaceful tomorrow. And that is how we raise our children up to be who we would like to see as the leaders of our future. And I believe that Maria Montessori played a great and impactful role in making that a possibility for children today.
Thank you, Sharita. Mama, do you have anything to add? Where you, I don't want to think that, did you start as an educator? Where were you and what were the challenges you faced? The principles, just like Sharita has said, Maria Montessori laid out very specific principles, that can be used for children all over the world, regardless whether or not they're in a Montessori environment. So what do you do to help impact, the lives? How would you do that to translate these principles to the lives of children that come your way?
Oh gosh, I love everything that Sharita said. It's just amazing what Maria Montessori went through and how she was able to come out on top. Like, I just imagine men looking at her and just wanting to squash her, but I'm so thankful that she fought through and just did everything that she did, because we wouldn't be so passionate about the method if she didn't push through, and I think it's just resonating with me so much more now. I'll probably share that a bit later, but because I wanted to start something and I felt like, could I really achieve this? But just hearing that and remembering what she's done, it just makes you know that you can. You just have to push through no matter the obstacles. And I think for me in my classroom, what I was able, like when I see females, there's just something that just ticks and connects with me, because as a child, I was very quiet. Believe it or not, I was a very quiet child, very shy, didn't talk a lot, especially when we moved back to Nigeria. I felt like I couldn't use my voice. I felt like if you spoke in classroom, you would be squashed, they would write names of noisemakers. And it's just like, so I just decided to just be quiet throughout primary school, and so coming back to that culture and just, you can't speak when adults are speaking. You should be seen and not heard, so I was just like, oh my gosh, what is it? Quiet, quiet, quiet. So now when I see children, especially females that are very vocal, very energetic, I'm like, do not squash that personality. I promise you, don't squash that personality. You see the parents, they don't want their child to look bossy, and everything. Yes, channel it in the right direction. You make sure she's not being rude, she's not being disrespectful, but by all means, do not squash that child's personality. Do not squash that boisterousness, because that thing, if you squash it, it takes a lot of pushing to get the personality back. And I'm speaking from experience. So that's what I try to do in the classroom. I just try to make sure that the females, the girls, all the children, they have a voice, Thank you,
Meme. Senora, would you have anything to add in that regard? Raising children, especially the second plane of development, that is children 6 to 12 years old.
I think Meme and Sharita have done justice to this topic, but one thing I did was when we elected class captain and leadership roles in class, made it open to everyone. And everyone, whether you're a boy or girl, could, come out and share what they were going to do and then get themselves elected. Also, when we have practical life, such as preparation of fruits, because the children still prepare the fruits, it wasn't just limited to girls who do this and boys will sit and be served. Everyone participates because it's just to remove the stereotype that men ought to be served. The culture here is a patriarchal culture where, the man is everything. And at home, I guess they see their dads and the male having being dominant and women being a bit subservient. But in school, it's all uniform. And that's one way we are breaking it. Another thing is we don't push, oh, girls must have pink and boys must have blue, It breaks the stereotypes type that way. So that's some of the things we did.
Very interesting, breaking stereotypes. I think it's quite scary. I have a 3-year-old, and maybe he would want to say that pink thing, and in my head I'm like, pink. We don't want to go there. Boys don't do pink, girls do pink. You should do blue. We get this. Really, I speak for myself. I get even though I say to myself, no, you don't have to. I don't have to do that. You can be anything, do anything. We have girls and boys. Okay, for instance, we've known in the past, our parents and our parents before, women do the sewing. But now we have men who are into fashion. In fact, they're great fashion designers who are men. And it's a beautiful thing because in the Montessori environment, all of this is incorporated. So you have in the practical life, knitting baskets. You're a boy, you're a girl, you want to knit. When we give lessons, we don't give lessons in consideration of you're a boy, you're a girl. We're a community and we do things together to build, our community. So if we're going to make the class, for instance, and then we're going to use wool to knit, anybody can do that. So I think these are ways that we have to bring in the children. There's no such thing as the boy thing. There's no such thing as the girl thing. There's no such thing as you're a girl, you shouldn't do that. Or you're a boy, you shouldn't cry. Everybody cries. We all have emotions. Girls don't cry. You don't speak. Oh, goodness. There's just so much don't do. And I wonder who is focusing on you can do. I'm glad that the day, women are beginning to recognize their voices and they're translating it to their children. You're a boy, you're a girl, you can do anything. You want to become the vice president. I don't think it's written anywhere the vice president or presidents are just for the men. Anybody can be, and I'm so glad that, we're all becoming aware of it. So it's just to create that environment, just like Montessori said. We must have that environment, that nurturing everything in the environment to help these children realize their potential. Okay, so let's stop there for a while. Like I said earlier on, we will get back to questions and answers. This is Heritage House. For those that joined us late after our introduction, this is Heritage House Montessori Center. We train teachers, adult teachers, and we have done that in the past over 20 years now. We have trained over 500 teachers all around the world. We're glad that Ms. Eniola is with us. She's an alumni. She's in Morocco at the moment. I'm also an alumni from 0 to 6 from Heritage House, trained by Mrs. Atoyi. If you're trained by her, it's guaranteed that you have to love Montessori. So yes, that's what we do. We want to use this platform as well to showcase our workshops that we have, talk about the workshops that we have, trainings that we have, and also to build our network of alumni. So we have our admin, business and admin, Fumi Akirimade, who is online with us. She would tell us in a moment what the alumni program is about. Fumi, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
The floor is yours. Please tell us about the Montessori alumni. Thank you very much.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Like Ms. Tumini have said, the Heritage House Montessori, permit me to share my screen. Just a minute, please. Trying to see where. Just a minute, please. Pardon me. Had it opened and all right. All right, permit me to share my screen. Yes. Yes, I hope everybody can see my screen. Yes. Montessori, as so many have said about Montessori House, Montessori Heritage House Montessori Center. We're a Montessori Center, an independent training teachers center. We're accredited by MACTE. The full meaning of MACTE is Montessori Accreditation Council for Teachers Education in USA. We were established in 1998, and now we're accredited. We've been accredited since 2009, and we offered some accredited programs. We train adult learners, both in infant and toddler and early childhood Montessori courses, which is 0 to 3 years and 3 to 6 years old, respectively. Our international accreditation offers our students an opportunity to work anywhere in the world, having multicultural experiences through practicum abroad, and generally be part of a larger network of Montessorian across the continent. By virtue of our areas of specialization and years of experience in the sector, we offer consultancy services to schools and organizations in the areas of early child years provision setup and supply of Montessori's and non-Montessori teaching resources, bespoken curriculum development, in-house training of staffs, and school advisory services. Going to the next slide. We have some ongoing seminars and courses. Our foundation Montessori course, which is FMC for our training and teachers assistant, I beg your pardon, particularly for Montessori early child classroom. It's commencing in April 2021 for 3 months. The target audience are the teachers who works in a nursery school without any early childhood qualification. This is a good place to start for them. And also school leavers who needs an interim job and wants to work part-time with children, in a part-time basis and desire to work with children, like I said. Mothers who wants to train their children, want to know how it's done and the areas and how it's done. And also existing teaching assistants in a nursery classroom who wants to know more about the Montessori method, who can also register their teachers. This is basically for school owners who have teachers that are interested in the program. You can register a minimum of 5 teachers in your school and you get a whopping 10% discount. So our next course of the early childhood and the infant, toddler, and early childhood diploma courses, which is the combined, only offered by us, which we're so proud and excited to say. It's commencing in September 2021. You can signify your interest in the chat room. We'll take notice of that and you'll be contacted. And you can also register early for an early bird discount. Then our next online webinar is taking place for, like you all know, this one is a free webinar. Next one is going to be a paid one. It's going to come up on the 3rd of April, I beg your pardon. Saturday, 3rd of April, is teaching toddlers online. Registration is open. Then for more information, you can call Aisha on 070-144-74566, or you can call me on 081-6755-6628, or you can send an email to us on info@heritagehousemontessori-ng.com, or visit our website, which is www.heritagehousemontessori-ng.com. Now, coming back to alumni, our Heritage House Center, like we said, we've been existing, have our alumni spread all over the world. Of course, like so many have said, we have our alumni on the panel, Ms. Eniola Hartrop, and of course, Ms. Tumini, who is also part of our alumni. So we're trying to gather our alumni together. So the aim and objective of this alumni is, number one, we want to have a database of all our alumni together for easy networking and sharing good practices and experience, and also providing opportunities to connect with other Montessorians in other parts of the world to exchange ideas, some innovations and new developments in the Montessori world. Another objective is creating a platform for teaching practicum within and outside the country through our alumni network for adult learners in training. Employ the strength of the alumni in creating awareness about Montessori education in the public sector through offering of our CSR education prospect for the betterment of our immediate and a larger community. Let me quickly buttress on that just a little. What we're talking about is like we're trying to, especially here in Nigeria, we notice that Montessori is not really being embraced by most schools, because most parents, like all our panelists have been saying, they want to see the children, they want them to read, they want them to learn, they want them to write. They're not allowing the children to grow in their pace. So we're trying to create an awareness school, a private faith. We'll pilot them, we'll take them as a pilot where we can introduce Montessori to them and let them understand what it is all about. It's a contribution to them. We will adopt some of their teachers, or we could go there by ourselves and train them, let them see what it's all about, the objectives, the advantages of a Montessori education, the benefits that they will see in the long run. So that's just, I need to put that one out there for the CRS, for our audience to be able to understand. Then the benefits of the alumni, what we're trying to do is to create opportunity for new graduates to be mentored by our established alumni. So many graduates are coming out there from our institutions and thinking, how do I start my school? How do I do this? When we have alumni within us, people monitor them or one-on-one or in a group, depending on how we see him did fit to go after. Then refresher course at a discounted rate for alumni or for their staff members. If you're part of our alumni, whether you have a school or you don't have a school yet, we can have a refresher training course or to give you refresher class on things, new happenings, new developments in the Montessori world. And also a discounted rate on enrollment in any of our programs. Once you know that you're an alumni, you have a discounted rate at your beck and call. And also free virtual annual seminars, which that will be fixed. Once we get our alumni together, we'll fix the time that will be, it's going to be virtually, like you all know, it's going to be virtually, so everybody can log in at different places wherever they are over the world. And also lastly, opportunities to collaborate and for corporate growth. Collaboration could be maybe, okay, a school wants to invest, wants to do something, or one of our alumni is in the educational sector, say, oh, okay, I want to do something. Do you have this offering? Oh, okay, fine, we can come on board. We'll collaborate with you. Maybe you're having the seminar, we need someone from our alumni to come and to act as a panelist or as an instructor. There can be a collaboration between us and our alumni all together. So this, please, at the end of the training, at the end of this seminar, later on, all your information will be gathered. A form will be sent to your e-box to fill. If you are an online, a Google form, please help us to fill it and return it and submit. All the forms, all your details will be privately treated. Please don't be afraid. None of your information will be publicly displayed. It will be treated with utmost privacy. all we just want to have is a database, your name, your location, and any other information you're willing to share with us. Easy communication. Thank you so much. Over to you, Tumini.
Thank you, Fumi, for your time. Fumi had mentioned that we have a seminar coming up on the 3rd. We have a seminar coming up on the 3rd of April. Sherita, who is on our panelist, will be hosting and taking us through infant toddler learning in a Montessori environment. It promises to be exciting, educative, and informative. Please join us on the 3rd. Information as regards that will be sent out on all our social media platforms. Please join us. We would go straight to our question and answers. I know that some of us have put up some questions in the chat box and in the Q&A box. Mrs. Atoyebi would attend to the question and answers. I think that in the course of it, if you do have any other questions you cannot put in the question, please raise your hands and then we would reach out to you. Thank you very much. Mrs. Atoyebi.
Thank you very much, Tumini, and I hope everybody is able to hear me. Thank you so much, panelists. You've done a fantastic job in answering the questions from your different points of view and with the different age ranges that you work with. It's so interesting to see how, or to hear rather, how each person has been able to cope with the different age ranges. And as you were talking, I was also writing down my own questions. But first, let us look at the questions that have been submitted. And I have also said that we would allow the attendees to ask their questions directly if we have the time. Somebody has sent in a question, and her question is, how do you practice differentiation? And I think this question is directed at Eniola Hastrop because she's the one that works with ages 6 to 12. And I hope, Eniola, you're listening to me. It says, yeah. How do you differentiate or practice differentiation in the virtual classroom during literacy and numeracy lessons? I don't know if this person joined late because I did hear you say that, you took each instead of having a vertically grouped class, you took the children in pods and you had them, in a horizontal grouping. And for the purpose of those who do not know the difference between vertical grouping and horizontal grouping is when you have children of the same age in the same class, and vertical grouping is when you have a multi-age grouping or multi-age group session with the children. So how do you practice differentiation, or how did you practice differentiation in your classroom?
Okay.
Virtually.
Okay. Thank you for that question. It was a bit tough, I will not lie. But I started with an activity that I knew the whole group could start off with, which was usually cultural. Everyone will start off with the same cultural lesson. And while I will give one or two something to go and find out or research, then I could now progress to the numeracy for each child differently. I was very fortunate that the group of children I was taking online, I don't have any students online right now, were all at the same level for spelling. So we could do spelling together as a group, take the rule of the phonogram together, look at it, then I present pictures or a word list. And because they wrote at different speeds, then again gave me room to be able to now pick out a child and go work with that child, one-on-one online. We use virtual Montessori tools. I think that's what it was called. And it should still be in existence. And but I'll tell the child, open it, and then you could work with either the golden bead material the stamp game. Those were the two I used with them. I did not do grammar because I feel grammar is a bit challenging to do online, but we did do word study to build vocabulary because English is a second language here. So we did reading, they read to me, I read to them. We did spelling, we did word study, and handwriting. When they finish it, then they will put on their notebooks and I will take a picture of it online. So that's how.
Thank you very much, Eniola. Awesome. You did mention virtual Montessori tools for the purpose of our attendees and those who are listening and watching. Would you want to tell us whether that's a website or a link so that they can also go and check it out? We're not, just here to talk. We're here to help people. If it's something online that they can, go and check out, can you, if you do not mind, giving access to that, if you want to put it in the chat box, or you just want to say what it is so that they can have access to it?
So it's, I think I'll call it a website. If you just Google virtual Montessori tools, and you will get it will take you to, there were two, but I think one has pulled down free. They're both free. I'll copy the link and put it in the chat. But
Thank you.
they give you access to a lot of tools.
Thank you. So there you have it, virtual Montessori tools. Just Google and just Google and you will have it there. Fumi Akinrimade, who just spoke to us about the alumni, just posted the link to the alumni form. For those of you who are alumni of Heritage House Montessori Center and you're here online, please copy that link or click on it and it would lead you to the form that we need you to fill so that we can have your details and give you all the benefits that we have in stock for those who are alumni. I know some of them are online, and Eniola just posted the link also for the virtual Montessori tools for those of you who are interested. Okay, we move on very quickly. Another question that came up, and please, if you have questions, any question at all for our panelists, this is the time to put it in the Q&A box or the chat box so that they can answer. I'm sure some of you are wondering what Eniola is doing in Morocco. I'm also wondering as well. I hope she would answer that question. I've been to Morocco only once. I went in the summer and I'm almost saying, you know what? I'm not going back there, but I want her to tell me how she's been able to cope and what led to Morocco. But let us look at another question that was put in the Q&A box. Somebody says when somebody talked about stereotyping, or sent in a question on stereotypes, when Tumini was talking about stereotypes, I can say 99% female-dominated profession. When you talk about the early childhood sector, it's dominated 99%, at least in the country I live in. I don't know about the US. I don't know if Sherita has men in the toddler classroom or if Meme has men in her early childhood classroom in Oxford. But then, we see that it's 99% or slightly less female-dominated profession, And so somebody put up the question and says, the stereotype has heightened in the nursery classroom. This person is speaking from, is logging on from Nigeria. And she says, it has heightened. And you find even the children saying, I don't want to do this. Only girls do this. And I don't want to do that. Only boys do that. It's not something that girls are supposed to do. Or it's not something that boys are supposed to do. And so two questions. How do we handle this? What can we do? That's question number one. And then the second question is, how do we, shift that balance in this IWD celebrations? And I'm talking about the International Women's Day. People have been talking about gender equality, that there's gender disparity, and we should speak up and challenge gender disparity and all of that. But how do we, that's the second question, how do we challenge this gender disparity in our sector, whereby we do not have men in the early childhood sector? Don't we think that it can affect the children, because we have male and female in the classroom? And I'll give you a classic example. I apologize that I'm, elongating this, but I need to let you know where I'm coming from. We allow children, let me just say that we practice inclusion in our school from nursery to primary level. So we take children with special education needs. We allow their facilitators to come in with them, if need be, into the classroom. And at times we have male facilitators who come in, to facilitate the learning of the child that is autistic, for example, in the classroom. Most of the time they are male children who have these male facilitators, the choice of the parents, not ours. And at the end of the day, you'll see, we've seen at least twice situations where a female child in the early childhood classroom is gravitating towards the male facilitator. She's just fascinated. She's just fascinated. It's like, wow, a man in my classroom, somebody different from me. And rather than talk to the teacher in the classroom, she keeps going, to the male facilitator who's not the teacher in the classroom. And it almost became an obsession, for this particular child, such that she got home and she would tell her mom, Mr. So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so. And the mother started wondering, who am I paying? Who's working with my child? How come it's Mr. So-and-so she keeps mentioning? Oh, Mr. So-and-so told me to do this. Mr. So-and-so took me to the bathroom. And it was at that point, that when the child started talking about things that actually did not happen, because of her obsession and fascination, that we had to wade in. And unfortunately, we had to come in between two parents, because one parent says, you know what, I don't want that male facilitator in my child's class. My daughter is getting obsessed. At the end of the day, we found out that it was because the child probably didn't have any male models at home, and so she was really fascinated. But the mother became worried. And the other mother or parent who had a child, the child that had the special needs or special education needs, had to forgo a good facilitator because of another parent. So how do we handle these situations? Let me first take Meme, and then I'm going to ask Sherita to also speak. Thank you.
Okay. Oh my gosh, just listening to you, I'm like, oh, no, because it's obviously, I feel like the mom of this child obviously may be very hypersensitive to this issue, which is why the child would form a story, and we've seen these things so many times. It's so clear. Before you even said she doesn't have a male person, I just knew that was the problem. I just knew that was the thing, there is no male. And it's weird for them to see men in the classroom because it's not normal. But I think that it's letting them know that it's in my class, we have 3 men. We have more men than we need. I'm just joking, but we have 3 men in it. There are classrooms with men. There are classrooms with as many men as females. And I think maybe speaking to the children to let them know that, look, it does happen, pictures, videos, exposing them to the fact that not even just in Montessori, that men are teachers, even just I feel having the conversations with them, first off, for them to see that it's normal, it's not a big deal, you know, I think that that's very important. I feel like the mother, instead of even going in that route, she should have just had a conversation with the child. Oh, it's normal. You know, I feel sometimes it's not, sometimes we make such a big thing out of something that is not supposed to be that big. And I understand parents' fears. A lot of times it's from experience. People are very, very skeptical of these things. But I feel like these are the things that alienate the men as well and stop them from wanting to even join this profession. Because if, as a man, I can't go, the parents is like, no, I don't want him near my child when she's going to the toilet. I don't want the man in the classroom because of that fear. I feel we need to start from ourselves and look at the reason. Okay, are you projecting your own fear onto the child? I think parent education, you know, speaking to the parents, educating them that, do you realize that this, your response has alienated that man who is such a good teacher? Look at what has happened to that child. That child had a connection with that teacher. He was learning well with that teacher. And now you have caused a good teacher that was good for that child. You know, and sometimes, oh gosh, it's just really, really upsetting to me, you know, that we let our biases and things hinder us from, but I think parent education and also showing the children that these things are normal. You know, it may not be normal in your classroom, but look what's happening here. Look what's happening there. Talking about it, showing them videos, pictures, and things like that. I think that that could be one of the ways to deal with it.
Thank you very much, Meme. One of the things I expected or I hoped you were going to talk about is the role of literature in these things, because I look behind you and I see books like Handa's Surprise. I see, you know, I Am Enough. And I know these are books that we read to children, or we can read to children to, you know, help them during circle time. There are books that we can read that, you know, demystify all the stereotypes that we have. Books that portray women in a different light and portray men in a different light from what, you know, children are used to seeing or what they hear or what they know. And I also think that addressing those issues with appropriate literature, you know, is one of the things that teachers can do. And even within the classroom, you know, activities that we give to children, like you said, can also help having those discussions. Sharita, thank you very much, Meme. Sharita, what do you have to say to this?
Yes, absolutely. There are a tremendous amount of gender stereotypes, cultural stereotypes across the board. It's interesting. You have a school population and a student body with many different families from many different backgrounds, many different cultures. You're going to kind of run the differences of thought and approach in that way alone, much less having to run into a bias that a parent might have that could kind of creep out into the classroom. So for example, many years ago, there was a young boy in the classroom who was fascinated with a creative play area where you could try on different clothing. This was not in my classroom, it was just in the classroom I was observing. The little boy was interested in all of the different clothing. I mean, they had jackets, hats, but they also had items that could have been considered by an adult as gender specific. So one day, this child's father walks in and his son is wearing a purple tutu, playing with his friends in the dress-up area. There's a mirror there, they can see themselves, they're having a good time. The teacher is enjoying the company of the children, and immediately the father just kind of goes off the deep end. My son is not going to be wearing things like that. Why is that even in the classroom as an option for him? And the parent had to be kind of walked out into the hallway as to not disturb the symbiotic nature of the classroom, because what he was doing was distracting the children and also attempting to intimidate the educators. So once he was removed, he was talked to by administration, and basically they had to have a very close-knit discussion with him about, first of all, his reaction in the middle of a classroom. Second of all, his ability to be able to speak with administrators about anything that he finds inappropriate that's happening in the classroom as an option for him. And then number three, the fact that all children have access to these items. All children can use these items. It is a PlayStation in the area, in the classroom that all children have access to. Some of the girls were wearing cowboy hats and cowboy boots, and no one said anything about the fact that those items could have been stereotypically used for boys. But as soon as this father saw the young boy with the tutu on, he really got up in arms. Once they explained to him that this had nothing to do with the father's perception and everything to do with the child's exploratory nature, he kind of took a little bit of a step back. He had to examine himself a little bit and had to understand that his personal fears and his personal biases were being projected into the classroom at the teachers, the children, and at his own child. And once he began to recognize that, he started to think back like, oh, wow, well, where else have I done this? And so you really have to be transparent. You have to really sometimes pull people into your office and say, look, this is not how things are anymore. This is what we're offering our children. They have an opportunity to be whoever they want to be in whatever way makes them feel comfortable. In my personal classroom, I have a baby caretaking station for my toddlers, and I also have a creative kitchen station. Those are not stations for girls. Those are stations for each and every one of my students. I see boys and girls cooperatively working together in both of those areas, making dramatic meals for all of the teachers and students, working together. We use terminology like, oh, who's the chef today? And who's the helper chef today? And they're all working together and really enjoying that process. And then you have the baby caretaking station where we talk about family. Oh, wow, you have the baby. Are you taking care of the baby? Be gentle to the baby without mentioning terminology like mom or dad, unless the children are using that terminology. Sometimes they'll point each other out and give each other signifying roles. One day, a little girl said, I'll be the daddy, and told a little boy, you're going to be the mommy. There was no objection. They both got to be parents. That's what was important. They both got to use that work, help raise the baby in the classroom, and then move forward together without having their gender be specified, stereotyped, or boxed in any particular way. I have girls in my classroom that love cars and dinosaurs. I have boys in my classroom that love the color pink. And we accept all of them for who they are. We accept all of their interests, and we believe in their choices because there's a reason for it, and it does not come from an adult perception standpoint.
Thank you very much, Sharita. I guess you nailed it when you said we project our fears into the children. We do project our fears into the children because listening to even Tumini when she was saying that her son will point to something pink and she's like, oh no, you can have blue, but you cannot have pink. I guess it's just that we're paranoid because of all the things that are happening around us. I can say, well, rightfully so, but we have a responsibility to do whatever we need to do within the house or within the home to channel our children in the right direction. And, when we keep talking about gender disparity and the need for equality with gender, it's amazing that we say these things, we want to challenge these things, or we do challenge them, but we don't feel the need for us to start from a very young age. Listening to you talk about your kitchen station, your creative baby care section in the class and all of that, and the boys and the girls cooperating, working, maybe spontaneous activities coming up, and the children are involved. Those are some of the ways by which we can, begin. And I say begin because that's the very beginning. These are some of the ways by which we can foster gender equality and make our children begin to see that, look, a boy can do this thing, a girl can do this thing. You don't have to be a girl, there's nothing that says, oh, the duty of cooking is the girls and the duty of watching football is the boys and all of that. So that is where we begin to stem, that tide. That's where we begin to bring about the changes. And the next question I'm going to be asking Eniola, and it's coming from one of the things that Sharita talked about. when she talked about that father who came into the classroom and was completely outraged by his son, you know, wearing a tutu, a purple tutu in class, you know. And when you were talking, you talked about the patriarchal society in Morocco, where you are, and how it's a male-dominated environment or society. And I remember many years ago, I was in a seminar in the UK, a Montessori seminar. And there was one of the attendees who was on that seminar with me, who was British and was teaching in Oman. I think she was teaching in Oman Empire. And I believe that the same system that operates in Morocco operates in Oman, if you know what I mean. It's a male-dominated society and all of that. And I remember her saying that she had challenges there with the parents in that school, particularly with practical life activities with the boys. She said, because this is a society a society where the man is everything, and it is reflected in, you know, the children's upbringing. When they come to school, there's a driver or a chauffeur that brings them to the school. And then with the chauffeur is the nanny or the maid. The nanny carries the bag. The driver carries the child. And, you know, generally the child just strolls into the school or into the classroom. And then they have specific instructions not to teach the parents tell them, don't ever teach my child how to sweep. Don't teach my son how to sweep, because he will never have to do that in his life. And so she told this story of, you know, the challenges they were having and how they couldn't celebrate Christmas with the children and all of that. What is your take on that? Because I heard you say that you're trying to break stereotypes. You know, in doing that, are you not contending with society? Or do you have such experiences as I have narrated?
Well, I would say our school is very fortunate. We have parents who are quite cooperative. Yes, once the children get to school, then they realize that they are in a different setting. They do have chauffeurs who bring them to school. They have maids at home. So for some of them, having to clean up after eating with a dustpan and a brush is an issue. You have to remind them. But the proprietor of the school and the administration, they do a lot of parent training and basically try to explain that education should be as an aid for life. So the fact that your child is sweeping, you know, I'll use my former school. The fact that your child is sweeping is exercising the wrists. It's not just, you know, teaching that skill of sweeping, but it's also in preparation for writing. So that was one of the things we told the parents. Here, I know they do a lot of parent education. And then because in class, we tell the children that we are all the same. So nobody is greater. Even though you have maids at home and they help you at home, that's just a job for them. It's just a task. It doesn't mean that you're better than them or you're higher than them. We all have to work together to keep our community safe. Safe means that it is neat, it is orderly, it is emotionally safe, it is physically safe, and it is intellectually safe. So everyone gets that role. We have a launch captain and a vice launch captain. The launch captain is a woman, is a girl. The vice launch captain is a boy, and they both are involved in it. The parents have, I think, have come to an understanding that the work that the children are doing, especially in practical life where they go around serving, is part of their development. For Christmas, we didn't celebrate Christmas outrightly, but the children, we requested that they decorate cookies, and both male and female children decorated them. We sent the pictures home. In our school, they cooperate. I've heard of schools around here where they distinguish the tasks the children will do. But our school is working well.
It's different. Thank you. And I like the approach of allowing male and female to, children to do things. And I just want to thank God for the kind of school that you are in, and the fact that you said that in some other schools, that is what obtains. I remember in our school when we introduced knitting. We introduced knitting, I think about a year or a year and a half ago or so. I had bought the knitting loom, because now there's a knitting loom apart from the pins that you can use for knitting, and is very good for beginners, particularly children. For those who are listening, the knitting loom, we introduced it into our early childhood classroom, and these are children between 3 and 5+, because we finish at 5+ in the nursery Nigeria. And they latched on so strangely, so beyond our expectations, to the points that, and I'm talking boys and girls, to the points that the children didn't want to do anything else. We had just a few frames and a pin, a knitting hook, just one. And so they had to, because they knew that they had to wait their turn. So you would find some children, because they really wanted to do the knitting loom, they're just sitting down, and you ask them, what are you doing? They say, oh, I'm waiting for her to finish so I can use the knitting hook. They had the loom, but there was only one pin. And so we had no choice than to get, like a set of pins. And then it became a challenge for us, because now the children didn't want to do anything else. And we had parents, and I'm talking about boys and girls. I remember one of the parents came and she said, my son is knitting. Wow, motherless babies homes, here we come. He has to knit cardigans. He has to knit, we're going to be taking all the caps and cardigans and things to the hospitals and all of that. They were so excited. After school, the children were knitting. Parents would come and they would say, I don't know what you've done to my child, but 9 p.m., I'm saying to her, go and sleep. So you can get up early for school the next day. She's dozing with the knitting hook in her hand and the loom, because after a while, we had to let them take it home. Take it home and bring it back the next day. It stopped being just an activity in class, and the child is dozing over, and she's saying to her mom, I have work to do. I have homework. And we had to tell the parents, we didn't give them as homework. They wanted to, they just couldn't, let go of the loom. So I think it's a fantastic thing to note. Now, before I go to my next question, I want to throw the floor open. Anybody who has, you want to ask your question directly, you don't want to type it on the chat box, you have a question, you don't want to type, you want to ask directly, this is your chance. Is there anybody that wants to ask their question directly before I ask the next question from the panelists? I know there are people that I have not allowed to talk, so I'm clicking the allow to talk button. If you want to ask your question, you can ask now directly from the panelists. If there's nobody, I will go ahead and ask my next question. Do I see somebody who wants to ask directly? There's somebody whose picture is showing on the screen, Love. You can unmute. Do you want to ask your question directly? Okay.
I don't have a question.
Okay, thank you, because I saw that you came on the screen. That's why I'm wondering. Right, now, the other question I have is, where do you see Montessori education in the next few years, particularly with technology? Particularly with technology. And I say this because, you know, whether we like it or not, homeschool has come to stay. It's been a staple in America. America is known for homeschooling. Some parts of the United Kingdom are known for homeschooling. I don't know about Morocco, but it's a novel idea or concept in Nigeria. But we've had a foretaste of homeschooling with this lockdown. It wasn't a good experience for many school owners, because many school owners were not ready for it. Some switched immediately. For example, in my school, a lot of the parents were impressed at the rate at which we just switched to virtual learning. Now, I say virtual learning and homeschooling has come to stay, but where do we really see it in the next few years? Let's say in the next 5 years, where do you see Montessori education and technology in the next few years? Because whether we like it or not, everything has gone tech. Everything has, you know, transformed. And we know that the Montessori method is very practical, is very hands-on. Are we going to be seeing more websites like virtual Montessori tools? Are we going to be developing virtual Montessori apps? I know there are a few out there already. How are we going to cope with this, and what do we see in the next 5 years? Let me start with Meme.
I was actually hoping that you wouldn't start with me. Thinking of the question, I'm like, I feel like there's a place for both, but I don't think that, like, now, I took some time off work to kind of start doing homeschooling, you know, because seeing some family that, you know, my brother in America complaining about not having anything for his children and all of that. So I started these Zoom classes, and I would kind of like do a lot of classified cards. It was mainly language. But every time I always think to myself, ooh, nothing beats being with the children. Nothing beats seeing them build the pink tower and looking in their eyes and seeing the discoveries that they make, you know, and just like even going, like we are nature people. We love nature in our school. We've got woods, we go here, we go to the park. So constantly we're going out with the children and just seeing them look, a slug, and looking in their eyes and seeing them. You can't get that online, you know, you can't get that. So I think that I feel like it's a personal choice for parents. I feel like there's some parents that as well, they're like, yes, I liked this homeschool thing, but I feel like my child will gain more from actually being in the classroom, and especially from the Montessori method, because we're so hands-on. And for us, it's about community. You know, I was even thinking how Montessori is all about community, from our setting of our table, from our looking after each other, from one person washing the plates and another person drying it, and just the community. And COVID actually tried to break that community by now asking them, okay, don't go close to your friend, 2 meters distance, you know. And I feel like we had to take a stance, and we had to tell the parents, listen, it's difficult with this age group. You're asking us 3 to 6 year olds to tell them not to stand and talk to their children, tell them not to interact. That's just breaking community. That's when we now started we're doing pods, okay? They will talk, they will interact, but this is our pod, and we're not mixing with other people, you know. So I just feel like there is the benefits. Parents also see the benefits, and I don't think Montessori is going anywhere anytime soon. Everything crossed.
Not going anywhere anytime soon, and everything crossed. Sharita, thank you, Meme. everything crossed. Sherita, what do you have to say? Yeah, the tech person here. What do you have to say? And you work with toddlers. These are very young children. I think the oldest child that you work with is 3. Good. Yeah. So where do you see Montessori and tech?
Well, it's interesting because I've had to kind of like be on this journey the entire time, having early childhood experience and then trying to figure out a way how to merge that with technology in this graduate program. So it has not been easy. Being a Montessori educator, there was tremendous pushback from administrators from various levels. They were just like, no, no, no. And this was well before COVID actually hit. So what's interesting is that I was able to really just push the idea that we are living in a rapidly evolving world that is a paced environment, moving into technological advances of the 21st century. Our young children who are in kindergarten today will be retirement age by 2080 something. So we set our children up for their growth and development with what our society is offering all of us right now. So fortunate that when I grew up, I was in the 80s and 90s. That's really when technology was really starting to pick up and take off here in the States. I had my first technology class in the 3rd grade, and that really just expounded from there and went, was more dedicated as I went through school. But I never had a specific technology aim, goal, or application. It was really just to learn, how do I function with technology in the classroom? Now, entering into this program, it taught me a completely different perspective. It made me look at the global perspective of technology. It made me to see how technology can be used to accommodate students with disabilities, to accommodate students in the classroom in the midst of a pandemic, and how to use technology to your advantage, not just as machinery, but actually as an applicable tool that you can use to make learning adequate in an online platform. Now, being a hands-on project-based learning educator in Montessori with very young children, concrete learning is the epitome of everything that we do. All of the children's senses, all of their experiences in person are the most important experiences that they can ever have. In a COVID world, we have to wear masks. It is very difficult for young children to understand the concept of social distancing. So we talk about spacing out, give your friend a little bit of space. But for the most part, I had to make a choice as an educator of early childhood, very young children, to come into the classroom, to know that my children did not have really clear understanding of their spatial faculties, and to not allow my children to suffer in that way by being present, by allowing my children to get close to me. Little children that we see as babies in some regards, they need hugs, they need security check-ins, they need TLC, tender love and care, just to get them through the day. Sometimes emotional support, eye contact, language, talking about the family. So in my classroom, conversations are a huge conduit. And I've been able to take conversations that we built as a community online and transfer that into our classroom environment. Take conversations and activities that we have in our classroom and transfer that online. And I'm fortunate to be able to do that because these are the same students that I've had for 2 years. If it were a different group of students, I would have to start from scratch, build a sense of comfort, move forwards. But where I see Montessori in a few years, looking back is what helps me to look forward. So knowing that Maria Montessori was a scientist, an engineer, a doctor, a psychologist, and had so much access to the technology of her time, there is nothing in me that says that Maria Montessori wouldn't be open to the use of technology today. Montessori is a hands-on approach base of learning. Technology can't be used in the way that we use it in the classroom and through distance learning without a hands-on approach. So there are ways that we can make connections. I believe that Montessori education has been a really hard stop block for the expansion of education in the technology sector. But when you look at the US Department of Education and beyond, technology plays a great role of how we build our global citizenship and stature, as well as economy and future of our economy through teaching our children the skills that they need to know early, as well as benefiting from the disabled population and the student learners with difficulties population to help use technology to build and enhance those skills. So in a lot of ways, technology can actually enhance a country's ability to perform well if they are able to use that in a way that benefits children where they are at a certain level, and they are able to communicate that process online. I believe that Montessori will have to, at some point, learn how to embrace technology either through a blended learning format or a distance learning format. There may be sole virtual Montessori programs in the future, as well as distance learning formats that will be taking place in the classroom while the children have access to hands-on learning and using digital practice in case they have to be home again. So we have to connect the dots. We have to merge the real world, concrete hands-on approach to a complete abstract connected understanding to technology. And I believe that if any philosophy can master that with practice and intent, it is the Montessori philosophy.
Thank you very much, Sharita. Well said, well said. So it's what we're looking at eventually is like a blended version of technology with the Montessori principles, whichever way. Technology is still going to have to come in, and Montessori being hands-on will still have to continue. So we're looking at a blended version, whichever way. We cannot take the practical aspects of Montessori out of it completely. I like that. Eniola, what is your take on this, technology and Montessori?
I agree with Meme and Sharita. And I think the way forward is for schools and training centers to begin to look at how to collaborate with parents to ensure that it's here to stay. It's not going to go back. To ensure that the principles, the core principles Dr. Montessori started with are kept in place. That's the triad of the child, the environment, and the teacher, kept in place to be able to make it, to be able to make it authentic, to keep Montessori authentic. So homeschool is here to stay. The blended learning is here to stay. How will a school, and it can be another market, another sector, just so you know, you don't want your child in our environment, but we can work with your child virtually and then create that social environment, even, you know, outside of the online, the screen, for your child, you know. So it's something that schools and organizations into education need to begin to look at. And then the government also has to begin to plan to put legislation and laws in place to guard this, this new way of going forward. It's something that's very important for us to think about in depth, basically.
Thank you very much, Eniola, and thank you, Sharita. Thank you, Meme. One last question, Eniola, and you still need to answer my question. What informed your choice of Morocco? Why Morocco? I have Montessorians online, you know, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking of other places. They'll probably like to go to where Meme is or where Sharita is, but here we see you in Morocco. Why Morocco? I have been. Yes.
I'm in Marrakesh. Marrakesh is it's a society that has so many cultures. My students are from different places. I have students from Portugal, from US, from Belgium, from France, you know. So it's like just a mix of cultures. Why Morocco? It was an interesting story. Someone mentioned an opportunity to me about a job in the UK, and it was an admin job, and I'd been in an admin role, and I didn't want to be in an admin role anymore. So I thought, okay, let me just look online and see what jobs are out there. And I have a friend here. She'd been here since 2019. So I just said, okay, I see your school has a job. offering. And I've never taught the 6 to 9 level, even though I'm qualified. I've taught 3 to 6. I've done a bit of 18 months to 3 years, and I've done 9 to 12, but 6 to 9 I had never done. And I wanted the experience. And also just the practical aspect of seeing what I'm learning in my master's program, putting it into practice as well. So called her up and I said, hey, what do you think? And she said, come, it's beautiful. Sent me a video. And I thought, okay, just spend a little time here. It's been fantastic. It's been enlightening, learning about different cultures. Yeah, well, I miss home a lot, of course, especially when you can't get your plantain and dodo. But yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I wanted you to share. Yes, okay. Please. Please go ahead, 2 minutes.
I'm so sorry to come in here. Just one question, because I'm sure there are people online who would want to know. As this is for Sharita, since you're the technology person in Montessori, how much is too much technology for a young child? How much is too much technology?
Yes, very good question. So anytime you use technology as an application, you have to consider the age. For our youngest students between 2 and 3, they're going to have the least amount of time online. So let's say, for instance, that a teacher has to be online teaching every single day. I would cut a circle time or an individual one-to-one lesson to about 25 to 30 minutes max after building a relationship with a young toddler student. That could be done in a school setting at a distance between 2 and 3 times per week, depending on the attention level of the child and depending on the support of the parents. For all young children, the support of the parents have to be very close at hand to make sure that the device is set up properly, that nothing gets spilled on the device, that it doesn't fall on the floor, because little ones tend to be very mobile. You can give parents tips and suggestions on how to set up a device safely in their home, in the child's play space, so they have plenty of room to be mobile. I do not expect toddlers to be sitting and stationary in front of a device while I'm working with them. So, and you also don't expect that from children in the Montessori environment. So you have to allow them the freedom to move their bodies, give them things to do that allow them to get up from the space, move away from the computer, show them what they can do. So there are so many different ways that you can integrate technology into the classroom as well with the children. If you are currently teaching in person, you can do things like play music or do an extension activity on an iPad, which gives the children an opportunity to learn from technology and not just use it as a play device, which is typically what they would do at home, taking mom and dad's phone or taking the iPad device, watching their favorite shows. So you want to get them out of the mind frame of using the device for fun. So what I tend to do with the young students is I will have a visual face-to-face conversation. Only after we've established a connection will I start to use digital media as an assistive tool to helping teaching. For early students, I always have concrete objects in my hands that I can show the children. I can show them a skill. I can show them something very specific. So for very young children, maximum a week, spread out into small periods of time, 1 to 1.5 hours of online time. That can go up for primary and elementary level and beyond, depending on the interests of the students, the location of the student, the access of the student, and different variabilities. And so there are so many different tools at our disposal that we can use as well, but hands-on concrete materials for young children is the key. They have to see it to believe it, and also keep their attention, be very novel, be excitable, have good energy, keep them drawn into the screen. But if they walk away or if they lose interest, don't beat yourself up about it. Just know that next time they will have the ability to build the attention, focus, and skill as they move forward throughout time. So it's a learning process. It takes time, but for young children to start, if you haven't done it before, 30 minutes once a week is plenty.
Thank you very much, Sharita. Thank you so much, Eniola. Thank you so much, Meme, for your time, for sharing your views, your wealth of experience. Before we round off, I just want you to give us your closing remarks. What would you have to say to those who have attended this webinar today. We had about 70-something people registered, and I know people registered across the continents. Some are not aware of the time difference. In fact, I had to send a message to Sherita to say the time is now, because she's 7 hours, you know, behind us in time. And I know that is a challenge for some people. And so what would be your last word for those who are listening online? What would you want to leave the attendees with? Let me start with Meme.
I think I would just like to say that, you know, to all the women out there giving our best, I'd just like to say to keep on doing what you're doing, and I feel like supporting each other is very, very important. I know that a support group of women has always been like something that has kept me going. If I'm struggling, you know, these times have been very, very tricky and difficult, just navigating everything with COVID, trying to figure out new ways to do the things that we're already doing, you know, lots and lots of cleaning, washing hands, you know, all the things we're doing. But having a support group of women to just like, who are in the field, to say, this is how it is with us, how is it for you? You know, I think having that support group is beautiful. And that's why I love the alumni. You know, when they started talking about the alumni, I was like, that's such a beautiful thing to have, a group of women that you can just call up and be like, look, this is what we're doing, and, you know, how can we help each other? So I would just say, yes, keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, keep us together.
Thank you very much, Meme. Thank you for that counsel. Eniola, what will be your closing remarks to the women on the platform?
Just like Meme said, collaboration. I think that's one of the major things that got me through, having women support me. And having heard about the Heritage House alumni, I'm just going to sign up now. I'll also encourage all my other classmates that I'm in touch with to sign up. For collaboration, women supporting each other, women cheering each other to go on and make progress. That's the most important thing.
Thank you very much, Eniola. And Sherita, what would you have to say as your closing remarks?
I just want to say thank you. This has been an incredible opportunity to speak with Meme and Eniola. Thank you so much to Bola for the opportunity. I want to just say to all of our attendees today, have faith in yourself, know that you can do it, take care of yourself. Self-care in the middle of being a teacher and COVID is imperative. You have to do something good for you. As much want to help our students, and as much as we are helping our students, make sure that you take care of yourself and you find time to refresh yourself as an educator so that you can continue to be an educator 1000% and beyond, because it is going to be required of you. Know that you can do anything that you put your mind to, and know that your process of education can change day by day, week by week, and month by month, either in you personally, in your environment, and in the world. Take it, accept it, use it to your advantage, adapt, and move forward.
Thank you so much. Awesome, awesome, awesome time we have spent on this platform. What else can I say? You've all been encouraged by the panelists, wonderful women from across the world, across the continents. They've taken out time to share with us their wealth of experience, their ideas, their perspectives. They're doing well. They are sold out educationists, you know, and what more can we ask for if we have these women from time to time, and we have people like Eniola Hastrop, our alumni, you know, right there, who can hold the hand of, or the hands of those who are coming up. What more? What else can we need? Who can mentor and say, look, this was how I navigated and found myself in in Morocco doing what I enjoy doing. And so I just want to encourage you, fill out the form as an alumni. There are people waiting for you to be mentored. And we want people like Meme to mentor our students as well, and Sherita to mentor as well. So welcome on board. If you want to find out more about Heritage House Center, Heritage House Montessori Center courses, the information is there in the chat box. Please don't leave without copying that information. I'm just going to ask Tumini to say the vote of thanks and just, close the meeting for us.
I'm so inspired. I'm so happy. I would not lie. Before we came online, I was so nervous, wondering how it would go, but it's gone awesomely well. I'm thankful to Miss Eniola. I'm thankful to Meme. Your energy is contagious. I'm thankful to Sherita. You're so calm, cool, and collected. We will want to hear more from you, your insights on technology, especially with Montessori. Thank you so much, Ms. Eniola, for coming. And we trust that you would hold the hands of those ones who come after us or who are even with us. Thank you so much, Mrs. Atoibi, for hosting us. This is one of many, I can guarantee you, this is one of many webinars, trainings that you would have from Heritage House. I thank you so much, all my attendees. I see my people. I see everyone here, even though we do not see your video, your faces from across the world. Thank you for joining us. Please always log in Heritage House website for more information all across our social media platforms to keep yourself updated on our next events. Thank you so much. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely weekend, whatever is left of your weekend. Enjoy yourself and hope to see you again next time. God bless you. Thank you. And thank you to our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.